evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of Tampa, Florida.
From Busch Gardens, Tampa. Busch Gardens, Tampa with the Kumba. What is Kumba going? No, we've got better news.
We got better news. I was thinking Gwazi on my mind because there's more Gwazi news. That we reported earlier on in last year that Gwazi was going to get RMC. That's pretty much a given. And then that's been reinforced throughout the last couple of months. But now we had some pretty interesting information, and this comes from the European Coaster Club's First Drop magazine. That's basically talking about, I don't know where they got this quote from. I don't have the whole magazine article in front of me. I just have a snippet of it. But basically they talk about this conversion and what it's going to look like. Because the big question mark was always, is it going to be an RMC dueling coaster? Are they going to do what they did to like Twisted Twins and make it into a single track like they did with Storm Chaser? So the question's always been, what are they going to do? Well, it looks like we have our answer. And it looks like they are going to make it into a single track. But the interesting part is they're not going to utilize the two lift hills as lift hills. What they're going to do is build a super tall, possibly 215-foot structure that's completely new, that's steel, much like if you think of like how Goliath is.
Yeah, I was going to say, use like the Goliath steel lattice work as your lift hill there.
So if you imagine that, they're going to use that as the lift hill and then use the rest of the structure for your traditional RMC hybrid conversion. The question is, are they just going to knock down the two lift hills? Or are they going to use them in other elements, maybe like other, hills that have drops?
Well, here's another thought too. If you're building a brand new lift, you could use, if T-Rex track and the iBox rail tracks that they use for the Iron Horses, if they could do that, couldn't you build a giant lift hill out of T-Rex track? To just use the big steel support beams and build like a T-Rex lift hill, and then have it transition to the iBox track once you get off the lift? I don't know.
It's very possible. We don't really know what this is going to look like. There's also, you were talking earlier about possibly, using those lift hills for like a stall or something, that you have a lot of wood to play with there.
You have the structure there.
So you have the structure there, and there's a whole lot of stuff you can do. A lot of people already talking, new number one. It's a little early for that.
Because we're going to get into the same discussion we had with Steel Vengeance. Let's at least, can we at least please wait until we see a layout? Because Steel Vengeance, everyone was declaring right away, and it's like, can we at least wait till we see the layout and maybe some videos and some testing? Let's hold off here a second.
Well,
okay?
And the thing about it is, and people, the only information we really have is that it's going to be single track. It's going to use a 200-foot lift hill. And people are like, oh, well, that's higher. It's going to break the records of Steel Vengeance. And let me remind everyone here that both you and I agree on this, that the lift hill, the first drop.
It's arguably the worst part of the ride.
It's probably the worst part of the ride. It's fun, but it's the rest of the ride that really kicks ass. So,
yeah.
So it's how you convert the rest of it that really makes the biggest difference.
When everyone's freaking out about this 91-degree drop, it's like, hello, you have a 90-degree drop across the park already that's 200 feet tall. Come on now.
Come on. So there's a whole lot to be excited. Don't get me wrong. I am super excited about this.
Yeah.
This is big news. Once again, to know what they're going to finally do with this, to go with the one track, to do a large lift hill. And I'm excited to see what RMC comes up with this, because Busch Gardens is now my second favorite park. So I love Busch Gardens, Tampa. So for them to put in something like this, and we said this before when it was first talked about, this ride could really solidify my opinion of Busch Gardens, Tampa, because I already think they have an outstanding lineup, and they do. One thing they were missing was that headliner, that top 10 roller coaster. this would be it, possibly.
Busch Gardens Tampa, I think, has a lot of top 20, top 30 type roller coasters. I mean, Montu and Kumba, both in my top 20.
Yeah.
Shikra, top 40 or 50 or so ish, in that, Cheetah Hunt is in there. Cobra's Curse is one of the better themed, middle of the line. Good first big roller coaster, if you will.
Yeah.
They lack the wooden coaster. Now the Gwazi has gone. Scorpion, a good first looping coaster. They have a really solid lineup all the way around. But you're right, they don't have that. Boy, that's a top 10 ride, or boy, that's a top 5 ride. They've never really had. Montu and Kumba are maybe the closest you've ever been to that. One, way back when in the late 90s, Montu was maybe a top 10 coaster. It's not quite that anymore, and not because Montu's a bad ride, not because Kumba's a bad ride, but we've had better rides built since then. So you need a new top of the line coaster. You need a new headliner, because you can't, the same thing with Millennium Force. You can only have a certain coaster be your headliner for so long. And you could argue that Millennium Force had been the headliner for Cedar Point for 20 years. Well, now they have Steel Vengeance. And most people would say, well, they got Maverick in 2007. But it was time for the new headliner at Cedar Point. In the same way, it is time for Busch Gardens Tampa to get a new headliner, and RMC Gwazi, I think, is an absolutely brilliant idea. It's something we've talked about. People said, oh, they can't do it, the structure's too old. And it's like, okay, in Louisville they had a structure that was sitting around for how many years, that it was steel. I get it, but at the same time, what was it doing? It was just sitting there. I mean,
it's wood. It's pressure.
It might be in better shape without the coaster trains rattling around on it for a couple of years, to be completely honest with you. And they're going to do their homework and everything. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I'm really, really excited to see what they come up with, because if they go with something the size of Steel Vengeance, like you and I have said, and like we said with Steel Vengeance, if they find a way to do brilliant elements in a brilliant, procession as they occur on Steel Vengeance, where it's balls to the wall, it goes through all the elements in a really nice speed, in a really nice way, and you really lay out the ride properly, you have the potential to build a top 10, top 5, top 3 steel roller coaster. You have the potential to, and RMC has proven that they can do a ride of that size and do it properly, have it hold its speed all the way through. They can do it. So now let's see if they actually achieve it on this one.
And I'm really excited, because we've seen other GCIs done in Joker with some mixed reviews. I'm hoping this one, follows more of like a Twisted Timbers with a lot of big hills, a lot of big drops. I'm really excited to see what they do with this ride. I've been asking for this for a very long time.
It's a big plot of land. You have a lot of land to play with there. You have a lot of area where you can come up with some pretty cool stuff.
Plus, you have a lot of land that you can add stuff to. Like, we really haven't seen RMC add a whole lot to stuff, but they've also not had rides that had a whole plot of land like this. Like, this area around Gwazi is wide open to do whatever you want with it. So, and I think that's where you get this new lift hill from, too.
And hopefully, like they did on Steel Vengeance, they come up with, a new element or two. Yeah. Steel Vengeance had the first inversion there, where it's a barrel roll that's on an uphill, so that you're upside down at, you're not upside down at the peak, you're upside down kind of halfway through it, so you come right side up at the peak of it, so you get a nice little pop of airtime. I remember our first ride on Steel Vengeance, that element absolutely blew me away, because I was like, oh, it's a 0G. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
There's airtime at the top of it. So hope, and that was something new. And then the second inversion, where you roll out of it, sort of the fake out, the reverse Wicked Cyclone thing that it does. So hopefully with RMC Gwazi, they come up with at least 1 or 2 new elements that they haven't done on a ride before, to give us some new sensation. We know what the stalls feel like. We know what the 0G rolls and the barrel rolls feel like we know what the outside bank turns, big on Steel Vengeance and small on rides like Twisted Timbers, Storm Chaser, Wicked Cyclone. We know what those feel like. So throw in some of those, throw in some stalls, throw in a barrel roll, and throw in a couple of new things too, and call it like the Tiger Roll or something.
Yeah.
Or, come up with something cool like that.
I'll tell you what, it's an exciting time to be
the Lion Loop.
It's an exciting time to be a roller coaster fan.
Tiger Twist.
That every day there's new, bigger, and better news coming out, and I don't think we're anywhere close to stopping yet. I think we are back into parks building great roller coasters, which we haven't seen in a long time. But we're back here, and RMC, as much as some people hate to admit it, RMC is a big part of that, of this roller coaster renaissance again. So, we'll have to keep you updated on all the latest news coming out of Busch Gardens, Tampa. I'm, of course, Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.